Welcome, everyone. I get a lot of questions from you saying, Jennifer, how do I immigrate to the US? Well, quite frankly, I don't know. And that's why today I have Jacob, an immigration expert. He's an immigration attorney, and he's here to provide that answer. So thank you for being here, Jacob.
Thanks, Jennifer, for
A-
having me.
And why don't you just let's dive right in. What is the easiest way that someone can immigrate to the US?
So, it's interesting because, the US is one of those countries that our immigration system is so old. We're going back into the, late 70s and all through the 90s. We haven't seen too many changes. So I think the, the, the easiest way to look at it is if you divide the system into two parts. One is through a family way. So if you have a family member, either a spouse or a parent or a brother or sister who are US citizens and they can file a case for you, and then you'll take, a few years and then you can immigrate. Or like majority of people that don't have that, then they have to use all the different non-immigrant visas that we have. So I would say the typical path, and this is the same path that I used when I came to the US about 25 years ago, is that the easiest way is just to come here as a student. And the reason is because there are many countries that won't allow or won't give a tourist visa to somebody under the age of 25. Most people don't realize it that, for example, most African countries, the chances to get a tourist visa is close to zero right now. It's very difficult. And the reason is because the consular officer, when you go to apply for a visa, any visa to the US, they're looking and saying to themselves, what are the chances that this person is going to go back to their home country? Any visa, whether it's a student visa or a tourist visa, they're looking at what is the likelihood that this person is actually going to come back. And if they don't come back, every time somebody fails to return, the consular officer actually gets penalized in a way on their record. They say, oh, you gave so many visas, half of these people never came back, right? So I would say the easiest way is for somebody who is under the age of 30 is to start with the student visa. And you can come and study anything. It could be English, could be any course of study. And then once you get a student visa, like I did, I came to law school here. Then you can apply for your first work visa. And the most common work visa is called H1B. It's just a simple work visa for somebody that has a bachelor degree. And the US immigration system is very simple. They're like, if you have education, then you'll have a visa. If you don't have education, there's almost no visas available for people that are uneducated. And those people will have to go through a different path, which is a non-skilled sponsorship, which takes forever. But I would say student visa the easiest way. Then you apply for a work visa, which is the H1B, and then eventually, once you have that, an employer that you work for, they can sponsor you for a green card. That will be the typical path for somebody that doesn't have a family in the U.S.
Thank you for outlining those paths. Now, I'm sure right now people are feeling maybe a little overwhelmed just by your answer. So, if you're 30 or under, the best way is to come as a student. Can you study anything at any program? It doesn't matter. Or are there certain things that you should study to have a better chance of getting a visa? What would you
Right.
say to that?
So I would say it's better not to study just English. Before, it was easy to come to the United States just to do ESL or English. But right now, US embassies are not very excited about people that are coming to do just English without a path forward. So, for example, I have a case right now from an applicant from Nigeria, and he was accepted to study a bachelor degree in engineering, but his English is not that good. So he's going to do an ESL at that same university, and then he's going to apply for the engineer. So when he went to the interview, I told him, show them you're accepted to the English program, but also you have the engineering as well, so they know what he's going to do after the English program, right? But I can tell you that in the past, I would say 5-7 years, both in the U.S. and all over the world, a lot of young people are not necessarily going to university anymore. They want to be able to start businesses, online businesses, all kind of businesses. So what I've seen are trends of people that come to the United States and start their own businesses. Okay. And there's a special visa for that. It's called E2, where as long as you have $50,000 in your possession, you can come to the United States from any country that is listed on a particular list, and start your business. And it's a non-immigrant visa for 5 years.
So that's great. We have the option if you want to come to study. Now, that's only if you're 30 and under. So let's say you're over 30. It sounds like you have the option where you can have the H1B,
Visa, H1B visa, or
H1B
or
visa,
the investor visa, like the
or the
E2. If you're so there's a list of countries, and you can find those lists of countries on the website. Even if you're over 30, you can come with an investor visa, and you can start your own business. And or like I say, if you have a job offer, you can come with an H1B visa, even if you're over 30. The reason I said under 30 is because if you're under 30, it's very difficult for you to get most visas, especially a tourist visa. So if you want to be able to get in, it's normal for somebody young to want to study. So getting a student visa makes more sense for somebody younger. Now, if you're older and you want to get a student visa, you can still get it, but you have to explain why at this point in your life you want to go to study. Is it because you really want to study, or is it because you want to live in the US? Do you know what I mean?
right. So they see it, oh, this is just a loophole, a way that you can get
Right.
in and stay in the country. Okay.
Right.
So if you want to come on a work visa, then do you need to already have employment in the US and a sponsor from an employer, or can you come here without a job and then find a sponsor while you're in the US? How does that work?
So if you have a tourist visa, and many people already have tourist visas, you can come. It's perfectly legal to come to the United States as a tourist and seek employment. So you can come as a visitor, show up at a job interview, say, "Hey, I'm from France. I have those skills. Can you hire me?" You can do that on a tourist visa. What you cannot do on a tourist visa is actually work, right? Earn money. You can come and look for a job. Once you find that job, then an employer can file a petition for you, which could be an H1B visa, or any other work visa that you might qualify. Or, like I said, if you come here on a tourist visa and you want to start a business, then you can use the E2 and start a business. Now, there is one visa that you can start the process even while you're overseas. It's a very interesting thing. It's something that is fairly new. We're talking about 2017 new, which is fairly new. And what it is, it's a self petition green card. It's called EB2, National Interest Waiver. And what it is, in simple terms, is imagine you are somebody quite accomplished in your home country, either a professional, engineer, an inventor, entrepreneur. You've done something. Maybe you invented something. Maybe you led a company. Maybe you, made an impact in your field. And now you want to come to the United States. We can take all your past achievements. Maybe you wrote a book. Maybe you were in TV in some capacity. We take all your past achievements. We almost kind of prepare like a little, like a dissertation in a way about your life. And then we file this with the US government. We show them, listen, this guy meets the requirement of the national interest waiver because he's going to do three things. He's going to impact the United States as a whole. He has the ability to do it because he's done it before. And he is going to be very valuable to the United States. And that petition is something that we do a lot. We actually specialize in that. And you can do it while you're still abroad. We have a lot of Brazilians who do that, a lot of Russians that apply for this, a lot of people from India and China, because you have a lot of talented engineers and inventors over there. So the national interest waiver green card self petition is very, very powerful. And most people are not even aware of that because you don't need anything. You don't need a job offer. You just use your skills and your accomplishments. So therefore, I usually recommend for people that have at least 10 years experience to apply for this. If you just graduated from university, it will be hard for you to qualify for the national interest waiver.
Well, that sounds like it's a welcome change,
It
relatively
is,
new, gives some hope to people who want to come to the US.
of course.
And you did casually mention that you came originally to the US on a student visa. So why don't you share your experience? Because I know it's a complicated process. So I want to inspire students that yes, it's possible. Here's someone who did it. So please share your experience.
So, like I said, I came here about 25 years ago from Israel. And My goal was to go to law school. I was accepted here in a master degree in law. After graduating from university in England, I lived in England for 4 or 5 years. I went to law school there, and I started working already. But then I had the opportunity to do my master's in California. And so I got my student visa. It wasn't that hard at the time. And while I was in law school, I was able to get an internship because the beautiful thing about being a student in the United States, and most people don't know that, is that once you graduate, the government gives you 1 year of work permit after you finish school. And the reason they do that is because they want to, first of all, they want to encourage people to be able to work, use their experience, what they learned in the US, but also it's an opportunity for skilled professionals from overseas to take that 1 year and find a job that eventually will sponsor them, which is what happened to me. I was working for 1 year for a law firm during my work permit period after graduation. And that same law firm eventually sponsored me for my visa and green card. And that's how I was able to stay here.
Well, I'm glad we have a success story to motivate and inspire everyone that it's possible. A lot of my students are concerned about their English language skills that they have now. Can you speak a little bit about what the requirements are from an English language perspective in order to immigrate?
Um, the most universities require a certain level of English. They will actually test students. Give you an example. So you have to take the TOEFL. As long as you have the TOEFL, most universities, and it's international. I don't know if you're preparing students for that exam, but that is the most common standard to be able to go to university. If you pass that and you have a good score on your TOEFL, you should be able to get accepted to any university in the US. So that's kind of what they're looking for. Now, if you want to go to law school from a foreign country, then you have to take additional requirements, legal English, and a few other. But if it's just a regular university, then a TOEFL will be sufficient.
And what are some mistakes that you see people make when they're trying to immigrate that slow down the process or get their application denied?
Um, I would say that the main reason why people get denied visas right now is because they don't come prepared. So, for example, they go to an interview and they don't have proof that they can afford to pay for school, right? That's one of the main reasons why student visas get denied, because they go to the interview and the officers is saying, well, how can you afford to pay for school? Where's the proof that you can pay for school? And then, well, we don't have all the proof here. Or students are not clear as to why they're going to university in the US. So what is the purpose of going to school here? They don't have sufficient. The main reason, one of the most common reason why tourist visas and student visas get denied is lack of ties to the home country, which means that they cannot convince the consular officer that they'll go back home. They have nothing, like, for example, if they're students, they don't have sufficient proof that they're going to do something with that education. Do you have a job waiting for you? Why are you going to study interior design if your entire background is in software? Do you know what I mean? Explain why you need this MBA if you are working in a grocery store. So it has to make sense. And for tourist people, tourist visas, there's not enough proof that they're going to go back. Do you have a job to come back to? Where's the family there? What are you doing before traveling to the United States? Do you have enough money to stay here while you're visiting? So those are the main reasons why people will get denied every single time.
And from your experience, what have you seen for people who are successful? Are they coming from certain countries or they have certain qualifications, certain education? What do you see for that?
I think the most successful immigrants that I see, clients, are the ones that they have like a vision as to what they want to do in the US. So, for example, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and startup founders. We help them with their visas, and a lot of these people, they're already kind of like successful in their countries, or at least they're starting to be, and they come to the US as a stepping stone to continue building their businesses. They have clear ideas as to what they want to do. They have plans in terms of their progress inside the United States. So I feel like people like that, tend to be very successful as they come here because they finish school and then they can go into the job market or start their companies. They have a clear vision as to what they want to do.
Well, and that makes sense because if you're immigrating to a
Mhm.
country, you're entering a long term relationship with that country. So it makes sense that you're going to be contributing and you understand how you'll do that.
Correct.
Now, there's a presidential election fast approaching. How do you think immigration will be different in the next year or even in the next 5 years?
Well, there's already changes that are happening. Just yesterday, they passed a proposal to help families or spouses, undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens, to be able to stay in the U.S. It's a proposal that came from the Biden administration just 2 weeks after he put very strict restrictions on people applying for asylum at the border, making it very difficult. It's almost like, yeah, I'm going to make it difficult here, but I'm going to help you guys here. I feel like there's going to be quite a lot of interesting changes or concessions in immigration because it is a very, very important element in these elections. How they treat immigration, what they're going to be doing to help certain people, what they're going to be doing to, um, you know, block the illegal entry of immigrants. So immigration is definitely going to be super important. It already is if you look at what's happening.
Now, I know it's a complicated process. People might feel overwhelmed about immigrating to the US. So, can you share a success story or a couple success stories of people that you've helped immigrate and just to inspire and share those stories with my audience?
Of course. So I have as I mentioned before, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who come from overseas. I have a recent case. He finally got his green card, and he was a founder from Canada. He was a young founder. He started an app to be able to track people's kind of like my fitness pal, but he had more features in this app, specifically working with companies and working with physicians. So um, the interesting thing about this guy is that he was rejected visas multiple times. He was rejected multiple times, um, specifically work visas. As a Canadian, he can just come to the U.S. as a visitor, but he wasn't able to get the work visas he needed to be able to work in his field. So what he did, he decided to start his own company as a result. And so eventually, the company was able to he was able to raise some funds, and and like I said, just recently he got his green card through that process that I mentioned to you, the national interest waiver, because he can show the impact that he can do with his innovation. And it just shows you that even though he was rejected multiple times, he wasn't able to make it the first time. He never gave up, and he was able to eventually, build something for himself, and of course, eventually get his green card. I have another story of actually a student from India where the entire village actually saved money. They all kind of pulled together money to be able to send him to school in Berkeley, and eventually he made it to Berkeley, and he went through the program, and he finished his master's over there, and he got a very good job with I think Microsoft, and he to this day he sends money back to the family and to the village to repay every single cent and even more in gratitude for what they've done for him 10 years ago when he came to the US. So just like this kind of stories just like blows my mind how people are just like, you appreciate. Some people don't appreciate it, but people like that really appreciate the power of community and education and what it means to be able to study here and eventually become something. You know what I mean? So it's very inspiring.
That is very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. What about a the green card lottery? Is that the correct term?
Yeah.
What's
So
that? Is that a viable option? Should someone go out and put their hopes on that? How does that work?
so the green card lottery is a real thing. It's a program that started in the 90s by the Clinton administration. What it is, it's essentially they're saying we have a lot of immigrants that come to the US from India, from China, from the Philippines, from Mexico. We want to create diversity in the US. It's important to have people from multiple countries who come here. And there were not enough people coming from Europe or some Asian countries. So They came up with the diversity lottery. It's diversity. We want to create diversity in our country. And so every year they give up 50,000 green cards for people not from those countries I mentioned. There's a list of countries that do not qualify to apply because there are too many immigrants from those countries. But if you're not from those countries, you can participate in the program. And if you win, then you and your family could have a chance at a green card. And I know quite a few people that won the lottery, the green card lottery, and moved to the US that way.
Wow, that's
Absolutely.
amazing that you actually know people who won the lottery.
100%. Absolutely. We have clients who did it. I mean, it's real. I mean, it's not that simple to win it, but you can.
But yeah,
Absolutely. Every
just
October, it's free. I encourage everybody to apply on the State Department website. It's free. They open from October 4th to November 6th every single year.
well, there you go. It's free, 50,000 plus spots, and you know people who have actually
Oh, yeah.
won the lottery. So it's an
Absolutely.
option. That's good to
It is an
know.
option.
Yeah. And if someone watching this is serious about immigrating to the US, what one thing should they do this week to help them move closer to that goal? Let's say right now they just say, "Oh, I want to immigrate," but they haven't actually taken any action. What's the one thing that they
Mm.
should do this week to move closer to that goal?
I would say that look at your situation right now. Like, what are you doing? If you are currently working in a job that is unskilled, then you have to, well, I would say the first thing they have to do is try to educate yourself as to what will be the best path for you to be able to immigrate. And based on that, do whatever it takes to come closer to that path. For example, if you don't have the education, finish that education so you can apply for that work visa. If you want to come as an investor, save enough money to get the money for the investment. If you want to come as a student, do whatever it takes. You know what I mean? So it really, because right now people are looking at the immigration to US as a big black hole. Don't do it that way. Minimize it, break it down into steps and say, I've researched, I've looked at YouTube videos, I know that I can do the student visa or whatever that other option that we talked about, and let me see what I need to do to prepare myself for that option. So I would say number one, educate yourself as to your options first.
That's a great tip because then you take this big question of immigrating, which sounds overwhelming, and you just narrow it down to one thing to focus on.
Correct.
And in our conversation today, we didn't dive deep into the different options because I know you already have all those materials ready for people to access. So, can you just share with my audience how they can learn more about all the different types of visas, the different types of processes, and the resources that you have available?
Um, I would imagine that you will probably share them in the notes. But I think I usually send people to our Instagram page. We have a large page. It's simple at San Diego Immigration Lawyer. That's our Instagram. Um, we also have a lot of resources on our website, which is at h1b.biz. And we have anybody who wants to contact us, we have like a text number that's simple to use. Just send a text, and one of our team members can help book a call. And I'll share that number with you, Jennifer, so you can put it in the notes of the show.
Wonderful. Well, I'll put all that information in the description. So, everyone, just look in the description and you can find the information you need to learn more and start that journey on immigrating to the US if that is your goal. So, thank you so much for being here today, Jacob, and sharing this valuable
Of course.
information with my audience.
It was a pleasure, of course.